Hello, everyone. Today is a great day. Well, let me just start by saying my name is Twyla Braze. I am president and co-founder of the Citizens Council for Health Freedom, and really our organization being the founder of Face Freedom, Face Freedom campaign. Today is a good day. So I wasn't planning to be on with you, but since all the good news of the day has emerged, I am coming to share with you what has been said from the podiums in Washington and from the podium here in Minnesota. So yesterday we did learn that the president was probably going to release information changes on the face mask mandate. And so he was up this today and giving a speech, and so was the CDC Director Rochelle Walensky. So let me just share with you what President Biden said. And I guess the best thing to say is that despite everything that has been said, you can consider the mask mandate gone because it's going to happen completely without enforcement. So there might be some people who are still more comfortable in a mask and they'll choose to have a mask. But there's not going to be any enforcement unless your city or your county decide to do enforcement. And maybe your state, maybe there are still states around that are going to say, we don't care what the president has said, we're going to keep the mask mandate on. But given that Minnesota is a very blue state and has lifted the mandate almost as soon as the president did, I have my doubts about that. So today is a very good day for people all around the country. So President Biden, in his speech, I think begrudgingly against lifting the mandate given his comments. So let me just read them to you. He said, after a year of hard work and sacrifice, the rule is very simple. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. He said it's vaxxed or mask. Get vaccinated. If you are fully vaccinated, you can he said, if you are fully vaccinated and can take your mask off, you've earned the right to do something that Americans are known all around the world for, greeting others with a smile. Well, that of course acknowledges the right of people, constitutional right of people not to be masked. But when he was asked, he said very clearly, he said, it's not an enforcement thing. We're not going to go out and arrest people. So clearly coming from the federal government, there is no plan to enforce it. And then, let's see, what else did he, then we go to the CDC and Walensky, Director Walensky, and this is her statement. Today, CDC is updating our guidance for fully vaccinated people. Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. If you are fully vaccinated, you can start doing the things you had stopped doing because of the pandemic. We have all longed for this moment when we can get back to some sense of normalcy. That moment has come, she said, for the vaccinated, the fully vaccinated. However, in reality, that moment has come for everybody because there's not going to be any enforcement and there's not going to be any vaccine passports. And that was one thing that the president said several days ago, maybe last week, that they weren't planning to do vaccine passports, but they were going to let businesses decide if they wanted to do it. When she was asked about masks on transportation, that is one place where it is apparently going to stay. Now, mind you, the CDC doesn't do mandates. It only does guidance. But lots of states and lots of counties around the country will choose to do whatever the CDC recommends. So in the recommendations of the CDC, there will still be masks on trains, buses, planes, and other forms of accommodation. And I guess we're just going to see where that goes. And when she was asked about enforcement, this is what she said. This country is very heterogeneous, not uniform. These decisions will have to be made at the local level. So now you can start engaging on a very local way in making choices about what you want to do with the mask mandate. Clearly, from the federal level, they're saying, get vaccinated, keep your mask on until you are fully vaccinated. But the fact is there's not going to be any enforcement of it, and they realize that that would be very difficult to do. So now let's move to Minnesota, which is a prime example for those of you who are not from Minnesota, and is also news for those of you who are. So in Minnesota, the mask mandate is lifted as of tomorrow once the governor has signed the order that will lift the mask mandate. He said he did not expect what the CDC did today. The Commissioner of Health, Malcolm, had wished for more lead time. And then he reiterated that the CDC has no mandates. They have recommendations, which I think is all very funny. If they don't have mandates and they have recommendations, why is the governor so quick to align with the CDC? I think the CDC's, whatever the CDC said, is viewed as a mandate, even though it's not a mandate. So a few more interesting things is that our Commissioner of Health, Commissioner Jan Malcolm, said that her concern is that when things are no longer a rule or a mandate, that people will think everything is safe. People will think that the pandemic is over. And she says we don't have nearly enough people vaccinated to keep this virus suppressed. She claims that it will come back. And she said we owe it to each other to know that the pandemic is not over. Well, I just want to say one little reminder here about the H1N1 pandemic of 2009. The H1N1 virus is still circulating today, but a lot of people are immune to it. And so COVID-19 is a very different creature. It's very rare. Lots of people who were told that they were positive weren't, so we don't know what to do with all the fuzzy math and all the fuzzy numbers. But the fact of the matter is the mask mandate is coming off today, probably in lots of other states besides Minnesota, certainly across the country at the federal level. But I want to tell you that here in Minnesota, there was a conversation apparently most of the afternoon as to how to deal with the federal mandate for the fully vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, or rather the lifting of the federal recommendations for the fully vaccinated and not for the not fully vaccinated, but of course the realization they can't do anything. And the governor said they spent the afternoon talking about this, and he said that they decided that they couldn't do it differently for the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. He said it would have caused confusion. He said it would have been untenable for businesses. One of the other commissioners said that the businesses do not have to be the cop at the door, so you can see what parts of their discussions were. And this is what Commissioner Malcolm said, which shows you what they would have liked to have done. Commissioner Malcolm said, our guidance will remain the same, but the recommendations won't have the force of the mandate. So they're not going to be enforceable. She said, if we thought it was enforceable, I would have liked to have seen that, but I don't think it's practically enforceable. Local authorities do, she said, however, have the ability to impose restrictions above the state limits if they wish. So clearly, if it was up to her, there would have been different rules for the vaccinated than the unvaccinated. Oh yeah, I did have, here we go. Here's another thing from her. She said, I'll be completely honest, if we thought that it was enforceable to be able to divide people into those vaccinated have one set of rules and those unvaccinated have another, I definitely would have liked to have seen that, but I don't think it's practically enforceable. So there are some congratulations today, and there is joy because the mask mandate is being lifted all over, but I really think that congratulations goes to Governor DeSantis, goes to the governor of Tennessee, goes to the governor of all the states, Arizona, all of those who lifted the mask mandates, to the governor of Iowa, everyone who lifted it, because the federal government could clearly see that they weren't going to win on this. there were governors who were saying no to the mask mandate, and so they couldn't continue the enforcement. They couldn't continue the mask mandate, and if you're in one of those states like Texas where the mask mandate was lifted, even though your mayor didn't lift it, please take the time to thank the governors of your states, the mayors, if you had one of those that lifted it, because that's really where the thank you belongs. That's really where the appreciation belongs. Again, Twyla Braze, Citizens Council for Health Freedom. It is May 15th. The mandate is going away today and tomorrow, and in the days to come in other states, if not everyone tomorrow. So thanks again for tuning in. Twyla Braze, Citizens Council for Health Freedom. Our website is cchfreedom.org, and that reminds me, right before I leave, I have two things to show you. One is to say, here's our latest Face Freedom. You can stop the camera and take a look at it if you want. This was going to be directed at Walls, keeping Minnesota in the mask, but because of what's happened today, we are going to publish that one. Instead, we're just going to say, do this one. There are people who are afraid. They're still afraid, but you can be the face of freedom in this country of freedom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great night.